Okay, what's going on, everybody? We are going to continue learning the Sefer Siach Sarfei Kodesh, history of Rebbe Nachman of Breslov and Breslov Chassidus in general. In the last video or two, we discussed information about Rebbe Nachman's journey to Eretz Yisrael, and now we are continuing when he comes back from Eretz Yisrael back to Ukraine, back home, and what happened then. This is the beginning of the major opposition, the major machlekes against Rebbe Nachman from different tzaddikim, and we're going to learn about it. So, Rebbe Nachman came back from Eretz Yisrael, and when he came back from Eretz Yisrael, he made a shidduch with his daughter, Adol, with the son of Rav Avram Dov of Chamelnik. Okay, the son of Rav Avram Dov of Chamelnik. And after he came back from Eretz Yisrael, he did not. He still lived in the city of Medvedevka for about another year. And in the year Tavkuf Samach, which is about a year and a half after Rabbi Nachman came back from Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Nachman saw, wherever he saw in his high visions and different things like that, that he needed to move from Medvedevka and move to a city called Zlatopolia, right? And in that year, at the end of Rosh Chodesh Elul, he married off his daughter Adol, like we just said that he made a shidduch when he came back from Israel. So a year later they got married. So it wasn't a year and a half, about a year. And the chasana, the wedding, was in Chamelnik, where the bacher was from, where the boy was from, and everybody was there at the wedding. And when Rabbi Nachman came back from the wedding, he did not go to Medvedevka. He went straight with his whole entire house to Zlatopolia. And he came into the city without informing anybody that he's moving there. Right? I guess back in those days it was a little bit more like formal. You had to ask people and different like that. But Rabbi Nachman decided, I'm moving there and l'chaim. Right? And he rented an apartment and he just immediately lived there. And everybody in the city accepted him with great honor. And on Rosh Hashanah, obviously, Rabbi Nachman's people came to him, about 100 or so. And Rabbi Nachman did not obviously prepare anything for them, because he was also ki'ilu, still a guest over there. And but everybody accepted the guests with great kavod, and that they wanted Rabbi Nachman and his chassidim to daven in the main shul there. And he did daven there, and also on Yom Kippur. And whatever Rabbi Nachman wanted to do in the davening, they let him do it. Whoever was going to be the Bali Tfilos, and the way that they blew the shofar and things like that. And he sat there peacefully for the Yom Norah. However, now things changed a little bit. On Yom Kippur, right? So now all the people that are with Rabbi Nachman went home for after Rosh Hashanah, right? And Rabbi Nachman still lived there in Zlatopolia, and he was there on Yom Kippur without any of his people. And the Bali Tefillah were a son-in-law and a son-in-law and his father-in-law from the city. And I guess the father-in-law was a big guy in the city. He was from one of the Ziknei Gedoyle Chasidei Hazakin. He was a chassid of the Zakin, who is the Shpoler Zeida, who, as we're going to see, was one of the main opposition forces against Rebbe Nachman. And this is the story of how it started. B'tfilas Ne'ilah, so on that Yom Kippur, right, the chassan, I believe the son-in-law, davened by the Amid on Yom Kippur for Tfilas Ne'ilah, and this was not in the will of Rebbe Nachman. Right? And and for some reason, in the middle of davening, his throat closed up and he was not able to open up his mouth at all and daven at all. Right? And he had to leave the Amud with great embarrassment. And they had to put someone else in place of him. And afterwards, on Motzi Yom Kippur, right, Rabbi Nachman said divrei tzachus, in a more funny type of way, about the Indian of the Bali Tefillah for that Yom Kippur. V'amar shuhu, that it says in the Gemara that Avram Avinu had a coin. Zakin Uzakena Mitzarecha. There was a older man and an older woman on one side, and on the other side was a bacher and a basula, a young boy and a young girl. Right? Right? He's basically saying that this father-in-law and son-in-law, they weren't davening l'shem shemayim, they were davening for their wives, so that they could look cool in front of them. And I guess maybe Rebbe Nachman caused this guy to not be able to daven. I'm not sure. I've said that somewhere, but I'm not sure if exactly how it was. And Rebbe Nachman said that he wanted at that moment to be oisik in his davening about the prifnitzia, that this was a something to do with a gezerah against the Jews, that the masters would take the miziga miyad hamoichsanim, something to do with the rent and the Jews and these bars and these things and whatever. And Rabbi Nachman wanted to be mevatel this gezerah or do something about it in Shemayim when he was davening in the Ilah. And he said, "Ve'im atem yoidim echa samach mem oimik kineged davar shbedusha ve'echum misbar l'chun vavel bazel l'zval v'dochisi yisai." So Rabbi Nachman did. Basically, this guy came and started davening, and I had to, and he was messing up the whole thing that I was trying to do, so I had to make him stop davening. So that's what Rabbi Nachman basically caused the guy to stop davening. Right? So because of this saying that Rebbe Nachman said, this guy who had to stop davening because his throat closed up, because Rebbe Nachman didn't do that, he went to the Kehilas Kodesh Shpoler, the Shpoler Zeida, which is close to Zlatopolia, and he told the Shpoler Zeida about Rebbe Nachman and he's here and he did this to me and all that, and it became the great Machlekes Gadol on Rebbe Nachman. And this and from then on in, the machlekes just got bigger and bigger until the whole entire city was chaylik on Rebbe Nachman. And it's impossible to explain the greatness of this machlekes, how it was against Rebbe Nachman, because it says that he was sitting there mamish on thorns. And then after Sukkot, the Zakin even came to the town. The Shpoler Zeida himself came to the town, and he spoke even more against Rabbeinu, and the machlekes got even bigger. At the beginning, the Shpoler Zeida and Rebbe Nachman were actually good friends. They had great love with each other. Right? The Zakin was bittul himself. He was mevatel himself in front of Rebbe Nachman. But the second that Rebbe Nachman entered into Zlatopolia, into the territory of the Shpoler, which was Shtei Parsoyas, close to Shpolia, right? And because of all this malshiness, because of all these sayings that people said against Rebbe Nachman, and this thing that happened on Yom Kippur, the machlekes got big, and it was very intense for Rebbe Nachman. But Rebbe Nachman said that he had to sit there min hashamayim, he had to be there from Hashemayim, because he was also being metakin the chet of Yeravim ben Nevat. So Rebbe Nachman had to be in Zlatopolia to be metakin the chet of Yeravim ben Nevat, which was the sin of, I believe, placing idols on the road that Jews had to pass by and things like that. I'm not sure. I'm not a big bucky in these types of things yet. And the Rav Chosid, the Magid Mishar Mitarvitza, right? The Magid of Mitarvitza, who was one of Rebbe Nachman's chassidim at this point, right? He was also he also was a Magid. He went around to all these cities. They knew all this type of stuff that you don't just walk into a city by, without asking. He asked Rebbe Nachman, he said, why didn't you send me at least to go to Zlatopolia, and I will, speak to the people there, and everyone will be good, and everything will be fine. And Rebbe Nachman says, if I wanted to wait, I would have waited. I would have gone in with a great wagon made of gold and whatever. But I can't, but I was not able to wait because I was muchrach min hashemayim. I was forced by heaven to go there. And he sat there for 2 years, and even though there was great machlokes, and he was still able to bring a lot of people close to Hashem, and also the tzaddik Rav Yitzchak Isaac, Niskarv Sham, and he said many, many high Torahs over there. Okay? One of the sayings that is said over here in the Breslov lore is that when Rebbe Nachman came back from Eretz Yisrael, he said to his Hasidim, he said, I came from Eretz Yisrael and I bought you a gift. And the gift is machlokes. Because that's when that is when the machlokes started in Zlatopolia, a year and a half after he came back to his house from Eretz Yisrael. So this chapter deals with a lot of the machlokes, and we're going to learn about it more. Let's see, 1 second. All right, that is what we're going to do today. But we're going to continue more with the Shpoler Zeida and Rebbe Nachman later on.